Huddle Up Podcast. Yeah, don't be alarmed. Don't be scared. I will take the full heat for this. If you don't know why we've been gone for months, listen to my observations that I dropped last week, the week before. But I will take the heat for that. Been a busy spring for me. Student of the game, Kyle Nash, right down here below me on the screen. If you're watching on the YouTube, if you've been paying attention to our YouTube channel at all, you know he is not taking a break. He has been killing it with everything he does. We'll let him run off that resume in a little bit, but make sure you're following along with us at Huddle Up Podcast Facebook and Twitter and TikTok. We're on Huddle Up Podcast Inc. on Instagram. We have our merch, and if you are on the screen there, you can see a smattering of the merch there that is up for sale. Even more offerings on the site. You can go to our T Public store, hit the link tree in all of our social media, and that will get you to all of those merch offerings. So head over there, support the show, get ready for the new season as we'll be kicking that off with our live shows in a little over a month. So let's go around the room. Mikey B joining us. How you doing, Mikey B?
We're good. We're here to talk about some funness. Gonna dunk on EJ even though he's still not here. We miss you, buddy. We'll see you soon. We miss him. We miss him. We miss him because it's just easy to dunk on him.
No, that's
sure
true.
about that?
Go Heat, bitch.
You sure about that?
Go Heat, bitch.
There we go. Matt, how we doing this evening?
Doing well. I will echo Mike's sentiment that we will miss EJ, so we will all be dunking on the Giants, I would hope, during the best and worst offseason plans. I know I will be, but guess it wouldn't really impact him since he's a Cowboys fan anyway.
There we go.
That is true. There it is. There it is. And student of the game, Kyle Nash, how we doing?
First of all, Jim, did I see a phone case in that T Public merch thing? I didn't know that was a thing. But hey, listen,
you did, my guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, but for me, I see caps added too. I'm gonna have to take care of that. I'm out of work. I don't want to be spending money and shit, but
there's a lot of new offerings over there. Two different styles of hats. Got the phone cases, pillows, tapestries, bags, frisbees. Dude, there's everything.
I'm due for a new notebook. I went over to minicamp with the Jacksonville Jaguars, do some coverage for Jaguars on SI. Bing! That did eventually, of course, make it also onto the Duval Dive. Bing! But all that being said, I do need to get a new notebook. Oh, look, I'm spending more damn money. But yeah, listen, honor, joy, and privilege. By the way, you're talking about live shows next month. No, sir. Remember, next week, while I'm in Greece,
yes,
NFC East is going to be taken on by this panel and hopefully another Cowboy fan in EJ Christian. Byrne, you'll help him get through the Giants, I'm sure. Somehow. You're already guesting in to help tomorrow night on the Student of the Game. Bing! To talk about the Raiders, because Raiders fans do not answer inquiries if they're a member of the media. I don't know if they're ashamed of Gardner Minshew or what.
I was going to say, if I was a Raiders fan, I wouldn't publicly admit it either. So
if you're okay with Josh McDaniel though, but Gardner Minshew, that's where you draw the line. Hell, at least Uncle Rico's an inspirational story. But I digress.
Well, that is true. But yeah, so we'll be covering that both I think on our live channels. I'm sure they'll end up on the channels of the Student of the Game, of course, as always. So get ready for that next week. And we'll be back to our full live schedule in August. Look for the dates as we post them on our social media. We'll also have a couple more off-season shows between now and when the live shows resume. So if you're not already subscribed and following and all of that to all things Huddle Up Podcast, make sure you do, because you're going to miss out on a fun season if you are. But yeah, Mikey B, the man of many hats, will be our Commanders correspondent next week. So yeah, it's going to be a good time as we preview the NFC East.
I just thought I'd take over for the guy who took over for Joe Burrow as part of the family and talk about Jaden Daniels with the Commanders.
Family.
There you go, Gay. Get it in. Get it in. All right. So on this show, we're going to talk about kind of our off-season awards in the National Football League. Teams that have improved the most, teams that have made the worst or most confusing decisions, and also how exactly are we supposed to evaluate or rank rookies before the season starts. But let's get it underway with teams who have improved the most. Mikey B, what's one team to you that has improved the most this offseason?
Bears.
Yeah.
I love what they did. Obviously, Caleb Williams at one was the slam dunk pick. But the additions of the veterans of Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift to help DJ Moore and keep that offense, the ability to have weapons for Caleb Williams to not struggle his first couple seasons under center, which already may be a little bit of an experiment with that offensive line. But I think that the Bears here, especially in that division, it feels like anybody that wants to be motivated to win that division for the next couple years has the ability to. We saw Detroit do it last year with Man Campbell. Green Bay, we thought was going to take a big step back. Jordan Love, played his butt off. So I think the North is one of those divisions that it feels like it's open. And I think Chicago noticed that and decided to add pieces to make the Caleb Williams transition a lot smoother.
Yeah, I have the Bears as one of mine. Do you think that Justin Fields is, a couple of states to the east going, where the fuck was all this help when I was the quarterback here? But yeah, no, I think the Bears have done a lot. I mean, we've talked about it on this show that Justin Fields, he wasn't the problem in Chicago. There was a lot of other problems. They didn't put a great team around him. Still a little unsure about the coaching staff, but I guess that'll kind of shake itself out over the next year or so. But yeah, I mean, the first thing that they have done when bringing in Caleb Williams is actually put some pieces around him that could actually, in a division that is kind of in flux a bit. I mean, we know the Lions and Packers are the teams to beat, but I don't think either of those teams are without flaw or are unbeatable. So Matt or Kyle, any other thoughts on the Bears?
No, I mean, listen, Bears are the correct answer. I make the strong argument that looking purely in the value of starting here and ending up here, the distance covered and what they did for their roster, I don't think you can do much better than the Bears. Just looking at player improvement, the only pushback I'll accept is them keeping Eberflus in the building.
Right.
It does not make a damn bit of sense to me. I know I'm not saying he's a bad coach per se, but you had the opportunity to reboot. You had some solid coaches out there. You could have gotten Jim Harbaugh in the building in a place, by the way, that is built and has a history of doing Jim Harbaugh style football, right? Like the argument could still be made that the potential for a quarterback to be drafted by the Bears that's most successful is Justin Fields. He'll just do it with another jersey, right? So
sure.
I think there's some there with having that possibility, but that's about the only pushback I take for the Bears. It's a great take.
Yeah, I mean, Mike touched on the offensive line still being a little shaky. That would be my only concern. But in terms of player personnel, they add a lot of people that the fans can get excited about in that city.
100%. Matt, do you have another team that has improved the most this offseason?
I'm going to go with Justin Fields' new team in the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have finally given up on the Pickett experiment and have now completely revamped that QB room with a Russ who's hopefully ready to ride, and Fields who has a lot better of an offensive line in front of him when he does finally get the tap to start for Pittsburgh. I would say that is a drastic improvement on what they had on the field last year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. They were at or near the top of my list of teams who have improved the most. And if you look at their draft, you look at some of their additions, you're not going to, besides obviously the quarterback room, they're not going to be a ton of things that jump off the page. You're going to go, they kind of did the status quo, but when you're a team that's had how many straight, above 500 or playoff seasons, and are in this century, a Super Bowl champion, and you have the coaching pedigree and everything. I don't know that the status quo is a bad thing, and they kind of improved at the key places that they struggled at last year. So yeah, I think Pittsburgh. Now the question is, you're in what is, in my opinion, the hardest.
The
Other
best
people
division.
will say arguably, and
Does anybody think a different division other than the AFC North on this panel is the toughest?
yeah, no.
Okay, so yeah,
Homer.
For you, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Homer for me. I'm never going to say it isn't us.
Yeah, no, it is the hardest in football right now. So, the Steelers were the third best team in that division last year. Did they do enough to be better than the third best this year? That's going to be the big question, but they definitely improved in places they needed to.
But, depending on what week of the year there was more flux in there than in a college football playoff panel, and there's nobody here artificially pumping up stats to make Iowa a top 10 team. So, it had that going for it. But yeah, listen, joking aside, man, I don't care who you are watching the Browns as the air quotes worst team in the division. As an analyst who covers a team, and the Jaguars, as I mentioned, Jaguars on SI, bing, the Browns were on my list as being a tough game. And I can make the argument the only reason the Jags beat the Steelers was because they knocked Kenny Pickett out of the game. I'll push back on one thing. You say finally getting rid of Kenny Pickett, Matt. I mean, come on. The dude only really had one full year as a starter. Let's be a little fair.
I think we knew more that the experiment should have been short-lived once we saw it in action. That was more my take.
I don't want to turn it into a Kenny Pickett segment, but maybe that's true. But by the same token, his rookie year is the better choice than Trubisky as a starter. So, correct. I mean, man, that's
the bar is the floor. Yeah.
Right.
Trubisky or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, your point's well made with that excellent soundbite. I hope he can land somewhere and get one more year. Maybe this is another thing like Sam Darnold. We promise, guys, he's going to be real good now. But, with Pickett, I think there is still room for growth, just like I do with Trey Lance for any Cowboys fans.
Yeah, there's potential there. I just think Pickett was put into a situation that wasn't ideal way too quickly.
Yes, why I cite Trey Lance. By the way, please understand Matt saying EJ's not here and making the Dallas Cowboy joke. For you listening on the podcast and who aren't watching on the Huddle Up YouTube channel, bing, why aren't you? Right. But that's fine. Get a hold of your life is all we're saying. But you're missing Jim. Hear that comment from Matt with his Dallas Cowboys shirt and hat in tow, like the GD Homer he should be at this point of the season.
Homer.
Dude, I'm not even. We'll get to the Cowboys soon enough.
We're on that later.
But yeah, I'm already not happy about it. I'm just putting on my. All I can do now is put on a brave face. Isn't that what Michael?
It's what you Notre Dame fans do every year, right? So anyway,
all right. Kyle, do you have family? Do you have a team that has improved the most?
Listen, the answer is the Bears because of the way you worded the question eloquently, I might add. But if we're talking about a team that accomplished the most in the offseason, you got to bring in the Kansas Cities of the world, who somehow the few holes they had, despite crazy stuff that has gone on in traffic, looking at you, Rashee Rice, you are the chosen one. The America needed you to succeed. Anyways. Yeah, right. Thank you, Red. They still drafted Worthy. No, I don't mean they had a good draft. It's Xavier Worthy. That's the kid's name. To get in more receiver help. They stood pat. They were this close to holding on to L'Jarius Sneed. They kept Chris Jones in the building. I almost said Chris Brown, but the way he plays the position, it still feels appropriate. So we'll just go with that. Anyways, so too soon. Anyways, yeah, I can make an argument that the Chiefs had a good offseason, though they aren't among the most improved, and a sneaky good and maybe it's because I'm close to it and can give you details. I know everybody's going to focus on the Jacksonville Jaguars getting hoodwinked by Calvin Ridley, but the improvements they've made roster wide while also securing a new stadium, the franchise has improved to a great extent.
Yeah. Two other teams that I had written down. The Green Bay Packers. They added Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney. They added other offensive line additions because, like, I think if there was a kind of glaring weak point, I think it was the offensive line. I mean, you had two really good running backs in that room that both got very beat up, and it wasn't because they were overrunning the ball. And yeah, the Packers obviously, they and the Lions, as we've mentioned here, are kind of the the two teams that I think are widely believed to be the contenders for that division. Chicago improved, Minnesota. There's just a whole hell of a lot of questions with the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold's the answer. How quickly are people going to be calling for JJ McCarthy? It's going to be a bumpy road in the post Kirk Coupins era. In
one quarter into the first game, they're gonna be like, "Where the hell is JJ McCarthy?"
I mean,
I was gonna joke and say over under 2.5 games, and here comes Burn with that. Well, hey, I guess he's got the under shit. So
the first bad pick that Darnold throws, it's those calls are going to be coming very quickly. I'm
they
just curious who they start with.
I say, are they home? Are they home week one? Because if so, first drive pick.
So they are at. They should start 1-0. I mean, one of us could probably start for them, and they'd go 1-0 because they are at the New York Giants week 1. So they're going to start well, but
wow,
it gets real bad real quick after that. They have their bye week 6, but week 2 they host San Francisco. Then they host the Texans.
Oof.
Then they go to Green Bay, and then they host if his ayahuasca prescription does not run out and his Achilles doesn't explode again, they host the New York Jets. So after week 1, it gets real bumpy before that week 6 bye week. So if he's not the starter before the bye, I have a feeling JJ McCarthy might be the guy after the bye when it doesn't get easier and they host the Lions. So it's not going to be a good thing. It's going to be a bad year for the Minnesota Vikings.
But the Packers is a great pick. I completely forgot about Josh Jacobs. Still have the Bears ahead of them improvement, but
yes.
The NFC North and what they represent in hype, I've had to examine this because I've participated in 2 roundtable articles for Jaguars on SI. Bing! One was a best case scenario. One was a worst case scenario. One is the best case scenario is none of the hype in the North pans, and the Lions are the only team to beat the Jags. The other one is all the hype in the North pans, and the Jags only beat the Vikings. So,
fair. The only other team I had just a couple of additions to the Houston Texans. Danico Autry, Joe Mixon, Danielle Hunter. A team that obviously.
Yeah.
What's that?
Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, sorry. Missed the biggest acquisition of them all. But yeah, so the Texans already far exceeded expectations last year. Gonna find out if they can thrive with the pressure this year. That's gonna be a big thing in year 2 there with Stroud and company. So but yeah, definitely some teams that have made some improvements. But now we kind of go. Yes, Mike. Before we move on,
I have one more team I want to discuss.
Go ahead.
Real quick. We mentioned his old squad in the teams that are going to be in for a long season. The Atlanta Fraud Cons.
Stop it,
buddy. You can tell me stop it all you want. That's fine.
Well, here's why I tell
There's Coupins in that division, but you don't want to add Coupins. That's fine. Michael Penix Jr. is going to sit behind a veteran quarterback and learn how to do things the right way. But on top of it, Drake London now has a number 2 wide receiver, Rondale Moore, Darnell Mooney, year 3 of Bijan Robinson. And nobody else in the NFC South wants to win football games, it feels like.
Okay, so that's not team improvement. That's
But it has to be an improvement over fucking Desmond Ritter.
A, B. You're right. However, Kirk, here's your best defense. And I was going to do this, but I didn't want to be cruel. But you opened this can, motherfucker. So here we go. Anyway,
That's what I do.
yeah, well, right. If we're going to sit here and talk about Aaron Charles Rodgers as an injury risk, of course we have to cite Coopins. You've got to.
Fair.
And when the inevitable takes place, and Michael Penix Jr., the actual Heisman Trophy winner, at least according to the student of the game,
Give that man his ding.
right? That offense has been explosive for a minute. That's why I don't buy them as an improvement. I'm not saying stop because necessarily it's a bad take, except for the fact where it's a bad take because it's Kirk Coopins. But when you stick to Michael Penix with that offense that has been awesome, they're an honorable mention. I'll grant you that.
Sure.
But who's going to make a stop? Oh wait, you don't have to. It's who's the
Jesse,
best quarterback.
Former Bengal great Jesse Bates the third.
Is well, he's getting up there though. He's good though. You're not wrong. But
the Fraudcons play 3 primetime games in the first 5 weeks. I'm not saying that's a bad sign. I'm just saying that's a bad sign.
Hey, don't worry. He won't make it through 4 snaps.
It's also coupons playing under the lights in Philly where he doesn't succeed. So
Philly, KC. Well, week 5 is against Tampa. So
I was going to say, I mean, it
Take that
also
for what it's
could
worth.
be Heineke for week 1, depending on where the Achilles is, because you're not going
Right.
to start Penix.
Penix could beat out Heineke. Anyway,
I wholly agree with you,
he's
but I don't
older
think
than Heineke, isn't he?
I think so.
but listen, here's the excuse me. Here's the punchline. Like here's the pop quiz as a student of the game, gentlemen. Who is the best quarterback in the NFC South?
Anybody in the Atlanta Falcon room?
That's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean it's Kirk Cousins.
Right.
I'm taking him over Derek Carr. I'm taking him over Baker Mayfield. I'm taking over Bryce Young.
The correct answer is Michael Penix, gentlemen.
I was going to say anybody in that Falcon.
I mean, Penix's only issue is his ability to stay healthy. I mean, the guy's been beat up every year in college.
Well, except for his last. Listen, I know he got.
Look at the end of that national title game, man. Even in those playoff games, dude was beat up. I mean, again, end of a long season. He shouldn't have to play 14 games this year.
Thank you for approaching the topic of the offensive line is a tradition of being terrible in Atlanta, and I still
which is why there's concern there.
But I will say this: while the front half of their schedule is real tough, from week 10 on, wide open.
Yeah, it does get a lot easier there. I will agree with that. So
wide open.
Yeah. So if you turn the keys over to Penix, just turn it into a Madden game.
Wait
till
after week 3 against Kansas City. Then you can let Penix start and he can go New Orleans, Tampa, Carolina.
Hell, I mean,
Seattle at home, at Tampa. Then the toughest game left on the schedule is Dallas. Then they go.
God only knows, and let's be honest. God only knows what that's going to be. And
you're not wrong, but when you look at the rest of the schedule,
toughest game, I will agree it's their toughest game left at that point. Jeez.
I mean, you're
their
finishing.
schedule gets a hell of a lot easier. Okay, so let's transition now. Teams who have made the worst or most confusing decisions, and you know what? I'm just going to supersede all of you because Mike already brought them into the room. Because the Atlanta Fraudcons. You add Kirk Cousins for a hell of a lot of money. You're bringing this guy in and paying him a lot, and okay, you drafted Penix, fine. I think you didn't have to draft him in the first, second, third, fourth round. Because
I don't think he makes it to the second.
I don't. I think they drafted him too early, and they didn't add offensive pieces in the draft until the 6th round. While they added some in free agency, I'm not saying it was a loss because that's kind of the way I worded the two topics as opposed to improve the most improved the least or gotten worse or whatever. It's just made confusing decisions. Because I think to add Kirk Cousins at the cost that they did and to not put more proven pieces around him and not work on that offensive line, I think that was a little confusing to me.
Is it because of the amount of money, or is it because it's Kirk Coupons?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Kyle.
See, because at this point, you're saying that you would have went with Heineke and then let Penix start by week 5 or week 6, because they had to address the quarterback situation in general, because it wasn't Desmond Ridder anymore.
As a wiser man on this panel has already said, it's better than Desmond Ridder. End quote. Okay. Taylor Heineke starting these games, or Pelatic Penix earn the damn job. You've got the weapons. If you're trying to sell us, we promise it's not a bad pick, he's our future, then you didn't need coupons. Point blank, period. Because all he's going to do is be in the training room on a regular basis. Okay? Like, I don't know. Matt, you want to send him some stogies? Give him something to do while he's injured?
It's because, I mean, again, I wholeheartely agree that the addition of Kirk Cousins is better than where you were last year. Even a Cousins coming off the injury, but I just if you're making that signing for that amount of money, you're doing it because you know that division is winnable, and anybody, if you add a couple of pieces and win games within the division, you're probably gonna end up as the division winner by default. You're bringing in Cousins with the hope that, okay, we can win the division with this guy, especially if he stays healthy. We're going to bring Penix into the room because if he doesn't, we want a better option at number 2. But then you don't do a ton around either of them, so that if you do win the division, you're going to do anything more than get bounced in the first round. That to me is the confusing part.
Let's give one little bit of credit. Yes, I've cited their line isn't great. Yes, I've cited their defense sucks. That offense is legit AF.
Sure.
That scat back they got there running the football is amazing. And this receiver core, we keep hearing about them, Drake London and company. We don't know it because I try. Cue up Mr. Morningstar if you don't mind, but I tried to tell them about Desmond Ridder.
I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen.
I said since he was still a player in the American that he could not translate to the NFL.
Any other thoughts on the Falcons? All right, Kyle. Well, who's the team that has made the worst or most confusing decisions?
For me, it's the Raiders. All right. Coming out point blank and not even touching the quarterback decision. Your answer is Uncle Rico. You have these amazing weapons. I get letting Josh Jacobs walk. I understand that. But going with Uncle Rico to be your savior after you've already made the mistake you've made with hiring Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo, where, again, as a Garoppolo guy, when he was in San Francisco, appreciating him being the starter and playing the role of the plug-and-play quarterback. It's crazy with Shanahan's, man. Papa Shanahan was plug-and-play running backs. Kyle apparently can do that with quarterbacks. I mean, damn, that's amazing. But no disrespect to Brock Purdy, of course. But, yeah, the fact that you didn't address that and that I don't really see anything positive that you actually did to enhance your football team.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
In a division where I might add there is a franchise threatening a three-peat.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty good. They're all right, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, starting with the draft, just puzzling picks all around, going TE that early when you just picked Mayer last year.
Right.
Tight end the least of the positions that you need to address in the offseason. Yeah.
Like if I'm Michael Mayer, I'm watching that draft going, the fuck? Can I get it? Can somebody get me out of here?
if him and Coupons were sitting next to each other during
Yeah,
the
like,
draft,
get
and
me
they
the
both were
fuck out of this room, please.
This edible is awful. What's going on?
Yeah, definitely was a choice. Matt, do you have a team that has made the worst or most confusing decision?
I'm going to allude to the episode of Hard Knocks I watched about the New York Football Giants, where their front office sat in a room together and said, "Hey, do you think every other front office in the NFL is as dumb as we are? Let's hope so." And then they did
Dumbass.
what I think everyone wanted them to do, which was get rid of the glue on their offense and go full speed ahead with Daniel Dimes for the upcoming football.
Thing sucks.
I mean, first of all, spoken like a true Eagles fan. Second, I mean, the only reason I didn't put New York first is because how could they have gotten worse than last year? Anyways,
They found a way.
They found a way.
At least they still have Saquon Barkley, right?
See, I see.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. Well, that sucks.
It was more so just the overall look. Like someone should have screened that and been like, "Hey, cut that scene, please."
Maybe we shouldn't put that on national television.
Right.
Don't underestimate us, guys. We'll be under the radar.
They put the banner up. They put the banner up over the exit sign. Like it's like, Danny, that we can get out here. No, we're trapped. We're trapped. We can't get rid of him. Yeah, I don't.
Just the logic of, well, we're paying him $40 million. It's not to hand the ball off to a $12 million running back. Why not? If you have a running back that's deserving of that kind of money, what's the harm?
Right, you're the idiots that decided to pay Danny Dimes $40 million.
That's my point. Are they actually still getting worse, or are they still bad from last year? I can't decipher.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
a $1 million question right there.
Yes.
Well, first of all, Byrne, I love what you're doing there. Thank you for the tribute. But I would argue that they made the move of Saquon this year, sure, based on mistakes from last season. That's why I didn't pick them. You know.
Yeah, just
throwing it out there, man.
Yeah, not necessarily that they got worse, just puzzling decisions.
Yeah, and that's where the second half of the question is because some teams have made,
as we said earlier, the floor is the bar for the New York Giants.
pretty much. Yeah, especially when, I mean, look, well, I'll talk about them in a second, but we don't know what Dallas is going to be, but they're going to be better than the Giants. The Eagles are in my mind going into the season the division favorites, but Washington's gotten better. So Washington is better than you, New York, and you've just decided to just bend over and take it, I guess.
Be on their hands and knees and just take it.
That's right. Mikey B.
Pizza, ow. You know.
Mikey B, a team that has made the worst or most confusing decision is who?
I think I'm going to go on the route of confusing here, and I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers. I like the Harbaugh signing. I think that's great. But we replaced an injured running back with two injured running backs, and we replaced two injured wide receivers with two injured wide receivers. DJ Chark do is taking over for Keenan Allen. So we'll see how many games he actually plays.
It's
yeah. But obviously the Austin Eckler experience, it worked for the time that it did, but it was time to move on. But the thought process of going and getting J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, do you think that he lost a game of poker at like Christmas? And he was like, by the way, you have to take both of my scrub running backs
right
in the free agency.
John wins the all-in hand and is like, this is who you have to take.
Yeah, I get to pick your
I'm
running
going to
back
get Derrick Henry. You're going to go out. You're going to take my scraps. Oh, damn it.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
My issue is there were names out there for cheap at the wide receiver position that would be upgrades over what they have right now.
Who's a wide receiver that was out there?
Hollywood.
It's not. And by the way, coach transition's tough. They may have made a shot, or it may have been a situation where they were later to the party. Like the Jags had the same issue with the extension of Josh Allen. That was kind of pushed out, and certain defensive things because they acquired Ryan Nielsen, just merely a defensive coordinator, and that kind of stymied some things. And they ended up being all right. But yeah, I don't know. Like, and I don't want to get too stuck in the example because Hollywood Brown's a good example, but I think I put it this way. Hey, listen, do you want to play for the team that's been perennially awful, or do you want to do something kick ass with a team that might win a three-peat and be a big part of it?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing, but 1 for 7 could have been 2 for 12.5, and I think you're in a discussion. I mean, anything's better than Quentin Johnson, who I think had the most drops as a rookie in NFL history, and Josh Palmer.
By the way, let me also reiterate, it's been a while since I looked at it, and I know they moved some of the pieces, but Jim Harbaugh is relying heavy on defense. You can see why I said accidentally, John, there. They are in cap hell.
Purgatory. They're in purgatory.
No. Hell. Please remember what they jettisoned. This is the reason why it's who at receiver from 2 guys that are Pro Bowl caliber. Not that they'll make it, but they're Pro Bowl caliber. Yeah, you got it, Jim. So I think that's a big factor. He wanted to at least keep some element to protect people. There's been some offensive lineman element there. They just gave Herbert the bag. Khalil Mack's still on the roster, which kind of shocks me. And the other Bosa, the one that's not Nick. I say that showing off my Niner homerness in a funny and entertaining fashion.
Homer.
But listen, that is commanding so much money. I can see why they took a pass on getting some of these guys and giving them big money like that. But you're also not wrong.
Yeah, I think we were kind of talking about it a little bit before we hit the record button, and if I know it's other teams have done it in the past, and people have gone, "Why are they trading Khalil Mack?" And maybe like the Chargers should have done that. And what is it? It's better to do it and ask forgiveness than ask for permission, and so like maybe that's something they should have explored to free up some cap space.
Maybe too expensive at this point.
I was going to say they might have tried.
Yeah, and maybe everybody's like, I don't think I want that. I know the outside of that vehicle looks really good, but there's a lot of mileage on it, and I'm pretty sure I'm seeing something leaking. So yeah, maybe they didn't have any buyers there. But yeah, they're not going to be a playoff team. It's going to be a couple of years for them to really start to turn that around. Definitely an upgrade at coaching, but yeah, just not a whole lot you can do with the cap hell that they are in.
I'm interested to see what a field control, sloppy punch in the mouth football style in the AFC West does. So we're making a lot of assumptions that they won't make the playoffs, and really, with all due respect, guys, I think that's more about the conference than it is this being guaranteed to be.
If that team is in the NFC, I'd feel like they had more of a shot because I think there's more spots to be had in the NFC.
Right. Well, I know we're worried about the injury history of some of these teams. Like DJ Chark is still a relatively young player. I don't know that he could take the top off the way he used to in Jacksonville as a younger guy, but one way you rest assured that running backs are less likely to get hurt is you give guys a committee. Fred Taylor, in his 10th year, made the Pro Bowl because he was the least injured he was throughout any point in the season, one could argue, and he had Maurice Jones-Drew carrying the load as a young man. I think bringing in 2 injury-prone guys as members of a core that will reduce that wear and tear is something to look forward to. And if you're in an offense that's going to be more ground-oriented, then DJ Chark, by extension, has less wear and tear. So you have this nice combination of a quarterback that can sling it if and when somebody's caught looking in the backfield for a play-action pass, and you have running backs that can stay healthy because you're doing it by committee. You just got to be able to make sure you can move the damn ball on the ground.
So looking at Sport Track, negative 11 million. They currently have $53 million in dead cap space this year.
As I said, hell, not purgatory. By the way, that would be spot rack, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. And they're also paying $51.6 million to the tandem of Bosa and Khalil Mack.
I didn't have the numbers, but now you hear what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's as some might say,
Not great, Bob.
any other teams, guys, that made the worst or most confusing decisions to you?
You know, just for the sake of giving my dude props, because I forgot to do it before, and I want to see Matt smile for just a moment. The Eagles are an improvement on the strength of one thing: bringing in an offensive coordinator change. Bam. They're actually dangerous now.
No excuses for them this year.
Yeah. Mike?
I'm and maybe you guys can talk me off of this one. I'm confused by what Tennessee did.
Oh, this is easy. I got you for this. What
Okay,
they
because
did was load up the offense as much as possible to see what they have in the mayonnaise Messiah.
I was just gonna say, because they're giving Tony Pollard
Too much money?
No, it's only $4 million.
I said what I said.
It was
said what I said.
It was more the compounding him with giving Calvin Ridley as much as they gave him. But I do like the trade for L'Jarius Sneed and trying to improve the secondary. But I was just more like, are we just gonna hope that Levis throws the ball 45 plus times a game and hope that Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard can be?
Well, I mean, at least they were smart enough to have at least one other guy to run the ball besides Pollard by himself.
DeAndre Hopkins is still there too, for what it's worth, right? So they
Correct.
have, listen, one can make the argument. I wouldn't say it. One could make the argument though that they're a top receiver core in the league. Okay. It doesn't matter if your quarterback's going to throw 500 interceptions, obviously. You know,
I think that was more. I think that was more what confused me was they made those moves and it's like it's still Will Levis at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately for them, they've invested in him. So at least they're going to do the thing that some other teams don't do, and they're going to put as much around him to try to make him as good as they can.
Looking at you, Chicago Bears.
wow.
Give that man his ding.
At least we're not saying it about Seattle and Rusty. I like that we're doing this with Rusty's backup now.
Right.
Current backup, I should say.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'll at least give them credit for doing that. But
let me add this element too, because I got that insider knowledge, air quotes. The AFC South, I don't know if you've noticed, gentlemen, has gone from a run-centric space to one where it's pass happy. And the Titans realized they were caught holding the bag, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Because at least at the end of the day, the Colts, if you can teach Anthony Richardson to stay damn upright a little bit longer than Aaron Charles Rodgers, you know, he's going to be a good quarterback, right?
Hey, Richardson made it to like 7 plays last year.
But here's the thing, though, guys. This is if you imagine a Ben Roethlisberger that can run like a track athlete and can also throw just a little bit more accurate, the Bengals fans suddenly got a little scared. Here's the thing. He's not on the field. So how do you negate that? How do you fix that? You bring in Joe Flacco? Okay, maybe the AFC North comparison is relevant. Listen, the punchline is this, though, guys. That part is good. The Titans were still the team relying on Derrick Henry. Even the Colts were finding alternatives to Jonathan Taylor. And the Texans, man, listen. If I had more time or somebody wants to pay me to do the expose on how quick the Texans turn this shit around, it's nothing short of amazing where they were with Deshaun Watson. Now, granted, part of it is going to be giving thank you cards to the Cleveland Browns franchise for some time. But the Titans had to get into that arm race of air attack. And the only way they could do it was, as you observed, Jim, throw as many weapons at the receiver spot to get that going. Tajay Spears, by the way, is going to be a big part of that check down game. Listen, I saw that dude at Tulane. I covered him twice as a member of the Black and Gold Banneret. Bing! And while people want to crap all over the American, it was still better and still better than the ACC at the time. Now it's just slightly close. Anyways, so with all that being said, the amount of chips pushed into the table to increase a passing attack is what took place here. The part that confuses me is you bring in Callahan's kid, right? Brian Callahan, a guy who's known and has the, what's his word? Reputation for coming up with creative run games. Okay. But people want to wonder why I'm down on the Titans. It's a fascinating thing.
We're going to get creative with Tony P and Tajay Spears.
And maybe you have to, and maybe their biggest strength that a coach can work with is to guarantee they're never overloaded in the box until people realize that Levis can't make the touch. But I digress.
I was going to say, I think the running back position there is going to be your dump option when, if nothing else is open. You have guys that, I joke about Tony Pollard, and the Tony Pollard is a starting running back experiment is part of the reason why I make jokes about that. But he's a guy that if he doesn't have to do everything, he can make plays in space, and Spears can do the same. So I think
the problem you had in Dallas, as you say that very thing, sir. Well done.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Texans or Titans. The most confusing thing goes back multiple years with why the hell are we doing this with Will Levis? That's the biggest question of them all. But the last one I have, I've obviously I've worked around it, but is my Dallas Cowboys. You've let a lot of talent walk out the door, and you bring in Eric Kendricks. Wow, 2016 called. That's a great signing. Royce Freeman and Ezekiel Elliott.
Whoa. We brought in Royce.
Like what the fuck are we doing? And not only that, you're going into a season where your best playmaker on offense may hold out because you're deciding not to pay him. You draft a guy super high, you give him, the most legendary receiver number that your franchise has, and then you're going to spit in his face 3 years later. So he may not play or may not start the year. You have a lame duck coaching staff. You have a quarterback going into his last year on his contract that is already too high and he wants higher. You have the season you have last year, you get washed again in the playoffs, and you decide, let's run it back, but with less talent. Like, God damn it.
They're a good defensive football team. I'll give them that, Jim. But listen, what I think may have happened is Rusty and Dakota were hanging out, and Rusty let him borrow his Creed CD. And so here, can you take me higher? And then thought of it as a contract negotiation tactic. So honestly, man, listen, we all know the issue there is the way that Jera negotiates contracts. I don't think I'm, breaking any ground by admitting that, and it's catching up to him. Here's the part where I am sympathetic with Jera. How expensive have receivers gotten? Holy shit.
Yeah, that happened quick.
Like Brandon Ayuk, your guy T over there in Cincy.
There's a reason why I don't think he will be here next year, but more on that when I talk to Bengals on the.
I'm surprised he's going to make it on this year's roster. I don't know who that GM is, but he's got pictures of somebody, or he's really good at, I'm just saying, I would wonder whether he has teeth still. The punchline is this, though, guys, okay? My whole thing is how expensive receivers got. Nobody could have known that, much less Jera. And you know what? CeeDee Lamb should be asking for that much money from this damn team. I got to catch passes from this curmudgeon that can't move anymore and was best on the run. I mean,
Oh yeah. Here's the thing. I'm not faulting CeeDee Lamb for wanting the money. I'm not faulting CeeDee Lamb for threatening to hold out, because if the market's the market, ask for the market. You've more than deserved it, especially last year when these other pieces around you were crumbling, both, wide receiver, tight end, no running game, the offensive line continuing to break down, and you're out there doing literally everything that you can. And if it's not for CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys aren't maybe not even above 500, much less in the postseason. So ask for that bag, man. I don't fault him, and if he ends up not being a Cowboy, I can't fault him for that either, because Cowboys probably going to fuck around and find out in a lot of ways.
It's very interesting how the Cowboys look a lot like the Lakers in that the front office has proven themselves inept and everybody's finally starting to figure it the hell out. But listen, let me give you another feather in your cap there, Cowboys fan. Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to dunk on a former Eagles player by proxy. You mentioned CeeDee Lamb deserving money, even though not a single playoff game has been won by the Cowboys lately. No offense. However,
I'm taking.
They extend to Trevor Lawrence, and all I hear about is tools like you, some other people, not you, Jim, Cowboy fans.
The you.
Right.
The greater you.
The collective you, right? You Cowboy fans. And I'm not shouting anybody else, but they talk about sports after dark. But that all being said, what has Trevor Lawrence done to deserve it? And he has a goddamn playoff win. Just saying. Looking at you, Emmanuel Ocho.
So how do you feel about bringing Zeke back for $3 million, knowing that you're still paying him $6 million in dead cap space?
I mean,
I feel great. I feel great. I mean, hell, if we're paying him, we might as well pay him to run. I saw him running around trash cans yesterday, and I was like, "Is this supposed to make me feel better?" Because it doesn't.
I mean, he didn't look.
If one of those trash cans had arms, he would have been tackled. I'm like, what the fuck? It's July, and I have to go, what the fuck about the Dallas Cowboys? Yeah, it's painful. It's painful.
Aside from Tony P, Michael Gallup's gone. Leighton Vander Esch retired, correct?
Yeah.
Any other big
Tyron Smith is now on the New York Jets. I know he was hurt a good bit of the time, but when healthy, he's still
$6 million
one of the best left tackles in football. Tyler Biadasz now in Washington. You have three guys, one guy from your offensive line, three on your defense that are now in Washington. Jaron Kearse, Stephon Gilmore, which I know aged names, but they were a huge part of what that defense was last year, especially when injuries started to happen. Now, the one reassuring thing I have is some of those defensive players like Diggs that went out early in the season are going to be back.
Yes,
but you have to hope that A, they can be as good as they were before the injury, and B, not end up as a re-injury risk. So if they can stay on the field, the defense should still be okay. You obviously lose Dan Quinn as your defensive coordinator. But it's the offense that I'm just scratching my head.
By the way, side note, I got to dunk on you real quick, Bern.
That's fine.
A bunch of former running backs who were young that have been injured go to Harbaugh's space. You ask questions. The Jets bring in Tyron Smith to protect Aaron Charles Rodgers. Sure, he may be enough to make sure that Aaron Charles Rodgers lasts 4 plays, but on the 5th play, he'll get hurt because Tyron will be out by then. That's what I'm saying.
I was going to say, they bring in the big name left tackle so that they can both go out together on a stretcher.
I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't try to bring in Bakhtiari and the guys from Green Bay too, and just have the old the League of Extraordinary. We have no more ACLs or Achilles.
Well, I mean, at least the field in New York is not known for causing injuries or anything.
No, not at all.
My bad. Any other teams that have done confusing things this offseason?
The grounds crew at MetLife.
I hate that Notre Dame's playing there this year.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. All right, lastly, before we wrap up here, I've seen people like throughout the year make rankings or this rookie is going to be better here, what have you. And I get it's just analyst talk. We have nothing else to do in the 6+ months between Super Bowl and camp. And it's just kind of an open topic. Like how, if we even can, do you properly rank or rate rookies before their season starts? Is it just based on what they did in college, like, or is it you think that there's certain guys who have better fits than others? Because like I think it's tough to properly kind of place or rank them.
I mean, fit, I think, is a bigger part of what they did in college, right? We've seen plenty of examples of running backs at Alabama that were backups at Alabama that then have better careers, right? No offense to Derek McFadden, but yeah, there's some guys that were behind him that did plenty good too, and I think it's the potential fit, right? That's why we didn't necessarily like Bryce Young in Carolina, was because of his size and how much he would be asked to do. But we also said, hey, maybe that mobility will save the day. Well, we see what happened. Some of us enjoyed CJ Stroud with a low floor, loved it when the Texans got him. Maybe didn't expect 10 wins, but were more optimistic than the national media, certainly. And I think fit is the biggest part of it, right? Maybe Trevor Lawrence wasn't a great rookie or a great draft prospect because he was in the room mired in Urban's coaching as the one of, if not the worst NFL coach in history without exaggeration, right? Even though he was an alleged generational prospect, and by the way, if you actually watch some tape, something we know Emmanuel Acho doesn't do, you could see that there are moments of that generational. There are throws I've seen in this press box where, like, there is no mortal man except for maybe Patrick Mahomes II that could have done that. Am I saying that's him every play? No, let's not get stupid. But I mean, he's an ACC quarterback. He can't be that damn good. But that being said, just because he played in the ACC, having a good fit, I think, is a bigger deal, and that goes offense, defense, quarterbacks, whatever. Running backs. To use Ezekiel Elliott as an example, no one had him as a good idea, generally speaking. And because the Dallas Cowboys were still in the middle of that era where the offensive line was the actual MVP, he was able to take advantage and tear it the hell up. And I don't remember if he got Rookie of the Year that year, but I know for a fact he was a candidate.
Yeah, I don't believe he did win it, but he was a candidate for sure.
I think there was a quarterback that stole it, something like that.
I'll always have the memory of that, like, 80-yard touchdown run against Pittsburgh. That was peak Zeke, and then he got fat and slow and lazy. Thanks, Jerry, for paying him all that money. I think it is just tough. It's a matter of, again, it's all talking points, and just seeing how how everything will eventually shake itself out. But because I always I noticed it in like the immediate, like, weeks after the draft, and I don't know if it was just because I don't know if I was just tuned into the draft more for some reason, or the post draft talk. I just saw so many people about this guy is going to be better than, and I was just like, man, these guys are months from even, or days from even getting fitted for their first NFL helmet, much less seeing actual field time.
They were leaning into the fact that there were so many quarterbacks, Jim, right? So and I forget the year, forgive me. Travis Fisher was the top pick overall. And
Eric Fisher?
Eric Fisher, thank you. What did I say? Travis Fisher? No, that's an old corner. Yeah, no, Eric Fisher, thank you, was drafted by the Chiefs. And it was one of the worst watched drafts, but one of the best line drafts of all time. Because
2013.
Thank you. Because people disrespect fat people, right? Now, fast forward to now, what was it? 8 quarterbacks in the first round? Holy shit. So I think there was a lot of that leaning into it. And because it was quarterbacks, now suddenly everybody's freaking Andy Reid and shit. And I feel like, to your point, draft coverage is on a whole nother level. And the tired voices of people with mullets and glasses are getting a little bit exposed. And here's the thing. I make fun of Mel Kiper. I don't think he's the worst one out there in the market. His only crime is not being Joel Klatt.
Which you know, not
And rightly so.
and Mel Kiper not being the worst one, that's saying a lot because that guy fucking sucks. So I'm still waiting on his retirement. I remember before Jimmy Clausen got drafted, said if this guy doesn't succeed in the NFL, I will retire. So I'm still waiting on that, Kiper.
Listen, I knew the moment that Carolina drafted him that they were in a pickle. Anyways,
I knew that. Nice one. I knew that before he even got drafted. But
by the way,
Zeke lost Rookie of the Year to Dak that year.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh,
I forgot they were the same. Yeah, you can't beat that story. You can't.
That's a tough one.
By the way, real quick, pointing out a fact about Jimmy Clausen, he prevented Steve Smith from having as many consecutive 1,000-yard seasons as a Jerry Rice or a Chris Carter.
Dang.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right. Yep. As somebody who watched him in Notre Dame, that definitely sounds about right. Guys, anything else before we wrap up this one? All right, Mikey B, let them know where they can find you, my friend.
You can follow me on Twitter at They Call Me Burn. You listen to me talk wrestling on the Take 3 Wrestling podcast with that guy over there somewhere. Whatever. I'm the intern mark of this. I don't know how to point.
You got to do stage directions. Yes.
I'm the intern mark of this. I don't know how to point. I'm just gonna start. Yeah, me, Jim. We talk wrestling. Otherwise, we're getting ready for the kickoff. So let's get this thing going.
All right, Matt, where can they find you?
Yep, it's at Teaching to Acquire across all platforms. You can hear me on Mondays on the Maximize Monday podcast, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the 3CT podcast. Almost stole Burns' show right out.
So are you firing me?
I was gonna say, when did we trade for Matt, and what did we give up for him?
Well, to be fair, Joe's a part-time. Anyway.
Occasionally on the Student of the Game podcast, occasionally on the Earnestly Speaking podcast. I still have to do 2 episodes of The Pitch, but I will get that in before football season starts.
There you go. You got about 2 months to get that in. Student of the Game, Kyle Nash, let them know.
First of all, They Call Me Burn has an E, not a U. You better get that right if you're going to hit him up. A, B. Second, big thanks in advance to the Huddle Up crew here. And I guess EJ Christian for allegedly possibly showing up for taking care of the AFC East in week 2.
Allegedly.
Who's going to be week 1? The AFC West. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the easiest division to analyze. So we'll start with them.
Chiefs good, rest bad.
I mean, Good,
everybody.
But Burn will come on during that as well. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern is when it starts, to help clarify to the exact degree that the Raiders suck.
Let's go, Aiden O'Connell.
More like Aiden O'Connell. More like Uncle Reek No. Anyways, let's save some show content for the show. Thank you. And of course, you can check out, by the way, that's Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Check that out. Also, the Duval Dive will still be happening too. Whether I'm in Greece or not, much the same. Travis Holmes, my good friend at BigCatCountry.com, doing this thing with me Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. But of course, you can check it out on the pods on the Student of the Game channel there with everything there. By the way, like and subscribe to Duval Dive YouTube channel and TikTok. Oh my gosh, I'm on TikTok? What the bleep? Anyways, so with all that in mind, my writings as well for Jaguars on SI, the Black and Gold Banneret, and the Night Shift podcast, the Black and Gold Banneret, where I debate with my good friend Jake Ferraro about whether or not Florida is the most important game on UCF's schedule. So that's a fun listen. Plenty of dunking on the ACC for those of you that are into that. I mean, maybe there is or isn't. It makes sense. It's me. I don't know. But also my work with the 3-point conversion. And I think that'll do it. And I'll enjoy and privilege until next time, everyone. Class dismissed.
All right, you can get me at Big Jim Sports, but most importantly, make sure you are following along with the show on all podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit the subscribe, follow, rate, and review where you can. You can get us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok at Huddle Up Podcast. Instagram is at Huddle Up Podcast Inc. Get our merchandise over at tpublic.com. Basically, just hit the link tree in any of our social medias, and that will link you everywhere you need to be. Huddle Up Related again. Next week we'll be live with the student of the game, the NFC East preview, covering that for them. And we will then be back in 2 weeks with another off-season show. We'll hit a couple more before we resume our live season starting in August with our college football preview. So make sure you following along with this so you do not miss a minute of the action when we do it. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and as always, go for the win.